We're going to look at 3 examples of inventory costing, and we're going to make a chart for each example. And the first example is going to cover FIFO, first in, first out. And so I've written the information for the problem at the top of the page, and you'll see that on January 1st, we had beginning inventory, so I'm going to go to the right column for the balance. We had 8,040 units for a total cost of $320,000. Then on April 19th, we sold 5,000 units. Now, if the selling price is given, it doesn't matter because that does not go in your chart. The only thing that you keep up with in this chart is the cost of inventory. So the 5,000 units that you sold cost you $40. You know that because that was your beginning balance, $40 items. So 5,000 $40 items would cost you $200,000. So that is a cost of goods sold for the April 19th sale. If you had 8,000 and you sell 5,000, then you have 3,000 left. And you have 3,000 $40 items left for an inventory balance at the end of the day, April 19th, of $120,000. Now our next thing happens on June 30th, and we're going to purchase new inventory. We're going to purchase 12,048 units that cost us a total of $576,000. So now, at this point, we have 2 layers of inventory. So I'm going to use 2 rows to put this inventory on. I have $3,040 units, and I have $12,048 units. And so I multiply those out, and I keep them separate because we're using the FIFO costing system. I multiply the second layer out, 576,000. So at the end of the day, on June 30th, I actually have 15,000 units in my inventory. On September 2nd, I sell, and I don't really have lines here, I'm going to draw a line there. I'm going to sell 9,000 units. So I'm going to make myself a little note there because I have to decide which units I sell first. Well, I'm using FIFO. I'm going to come up here to the top right and check it out. I'm using FIFO. That means that I'm going to sell those $3,040 items first. And then I'm going to sell the rest of the second layer of inventory. So my client wants 9,000 units. I already have 3,000 units loaded on the truck, those $40 items. And so I'm going to add 6,000 of the $48 items to that truck, which also cost me $288,000. So to find the cost of goods sold for that one day, you would add those 2 numbers. Now, I need to see what I have left over, ending balance at the end of the day. I don't have any $40 units left because I've put them all on the truck and they've gone home with my client. But $48 units, I have some left. I had 12,000 and I put 6,000 on the truck. So now I have 6,000 $48 units left for an inventory balance of $288,000. Then on November 15th, I make another purchase. I purchased 2,000 units this time at a cost of $50 each, which cost me a total of $100,000. And once again, I have 2 layers of inventory, so I'll need to use 2 lines for this. I have 6,000 $48 units, and I have 2,000 $50 units. I'll multiply that out, and that is my ending inventory at the end of November 15th. And that is all of our transactions. So what we're going to do now is come up with our totals. And we can tell here that we sold 5,000 and 9,000. So the total number of units sold was 14,000. And the total cost of goods sold for the month is 608,000. Ending inventory consists of 8,000 units for a total cost of $388,000. The next thing we're going to look at is a LIFO chart. Last in, first out. We're going to use the same exact information for LIFO. So on January 1st, we have a beginning balance, and I'm just going to kind of use the same columns here. We have a beginning balance, 8,040 units for a cost of $320,000. And then on April 19th, we actually sell 5,000 units. They cost us $40. We multiply that out to find cost of goods sold for $200,000, and that leaves us with 6,000. Oh, excuse me, I did the math wrong. 8,000 minus 5 is 3,000. Can't read my notes. Units, $40 units. And when you multiply 3,000 times 40, hopefully that's 120,000. Then, June 30th, you purchased 12,048 units for $576,000. At this point, you have 2 layers of inventory, so you need to take up 2 lines. You'll bring down the $3,040 items, and now you have $12,048 items, and then you'll multiply those out to find the balance in your inventory account. So 3,000 times 40 is 120,000. 12,000 times 48 is 576,000. At this point, your LIFO chart looks just like your FIFO chart, but that's going to change on the next line. September 2nd, we sell 9,000 units. And I always make a little note to the left of that column, just so I make sure that I get all the units I need on the truck. Now, which units do I sell first? Well, this particular chart is using LIFO, which means that the last units in are the first units out the door. So my client wants 9,000, and I do have 9,000 of the newer items, $48 items. So I'm going to multiply 9,000 times 48 for my cost of goods sold of $432,000. So once again, I have 2 layers of inventory. I still have the first layer, $3,040 units, and now I have $3,048 units. So I'm going to multiply that out. 3,000 times 40 is 120,000, and 3,000 times 48 is 144,000. Then our last transaction, November 15th, I purchased 2,050 units at a cost of $100,000. So now instead of having 2 layers of inventory, I actually have 3 layers of inventory. I still have the $3,040 units, and I have $3,048 units, and now I have $2,050 units. So my ending inventory at the end of the year includes 3,000 plus 3,000 plus 2,000 is 8,000 units for a cost of $364,000. Now my cost of goods sold, I sold 14,000 units for a total cost of $632,000.